Want bigger, better buds? Well, it's all about pruning the right way. Today, I'll show you how topping, defoliation, and lollipopping can take your grow to the next level. Come on, but before we do, today's video is brought to you by Real Grow Lab. If you want to connect with the best growers from all over the world, get tips and tricks on how to grow the dankest plants possible, and not have to worry about the censorship we get from YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Go check out realgrowlab.com. Get all kinds of great Grow Talk Q&A. Plus, see all the stuff YouTube won't let me show you in these videos. Sign up and join our growing community over at realgrowlab.com. Or download the app at the Apple or Android App Store. Now let's get back to today's video. Come on, High C, let's get into this one.
Okay, this goes against most of what you've taught me about growing because you always say we're trying to mimic nature.
Sure.
Pruning, lollipopping, all these new words to me.
Really?
Is this what happens in nature?
You don't think an animal comes along and gnaws the top off of a plant every now and again?
Oh, and animals probably gnaw at the bottoms of plants too.
Yeah. Well, what do you think what happens when the plant gets the top gnawed off? It grows back, right? It's going to grow back. All that is signaling and hormones battling each other. It's super interesting.
Okay, so you changed my mind. First thing in the video.
Right. Come on.
All right, let's get into it. How can we take advantage of some of these pruning techniques to grow bigger, better buds?
First one is topping, okay? We all know, unless you're growing plants really close together, you know that they'll grow with one big dominant cola, one big dominant top. They call it the apical meristem, the top, the apex.
I've seen those pictures on Instagram, and it's like as big as their arm.
Yep. So that's one big bud. If that's what you're doing, if you've got plants really close together, that might be what you want. For us, we're only growing a few plants, so I don't want one giant bud in the center. I want a bunch of buds all around. So it's a hormone battle is what it is. The apical meristem has auxins. I just think of A and A. The auxin's job is to grow that giant bud. It's just to grow that top.
Okay, and the auxin production, I think you were telling me, happens towards the top of the plant.
In the top, yep. And It's just continually, growing that top. There's things called cyanokinins. You don't have to know how to spell it, okay? But they are in the roots. And so when you cut the auxin factories off, when you cut the tops off, those cyanokinins become dominant, and the cyanokinins are responsible for branching. So what you get is you cut the factories off, you give the cyanokinins a time to make branches. And by the way, side branches, I think of it that way.
Okay.
But then the auxins take over again, and you grow multiple big tops. That's how you shape the plants.
So by cutting that big cola opportunity off, it's not cutting the opportunity in general, it's just redistributing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, and you're giving it a chance to do that. Now all the resources are going straight to that highway, and they're going right to that top. So we want to cut that highway. We want to cut that off and
do a detour.
Yeah, there's going to make a bunch of different lanes.
And what's the advantage of having multiple budding sites over that one main budding site?
You will get more weight because I will say that overall you can get much more weight. It's also having one giant bud can be a problem. You've got things like bud mold.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean they're putting all your eggs in that one basket and growing some big giant bud. That's not the way that I've gotten my best yields. I've gotten my best yields by having 6 or 8 or 10, maybe 6 or 8 arms that have, big branches that have a lot of bud on them.
I'm also thinking if I've got this one giant bud, the top of it is getting way different light than the bottom of that bud is.
Yep.
But if I've got them spread out and even across the canopy, they're all getting about the same amount of light.
Yep. That's why even if I have a giant bud, a lot of times I'll super crop it and turn it sideways.
Okay.
Yeah, just because more volume.
All right, so let's go into pruning and some, first of all, reasons to prune. You mentioned earlier in nature it does happen. Why in our grow do we want to prune?
We're talking pruning is kind of a general term. Let's talk defoliation.
Okay.
Okay, because that is removing the leaves. The foliage, we're removing the leaves. And it is counterintuitive because the leaves are your solar panels. Those are where the photosynthesis, the energy for that photosynthesis is happening. So why am I cutting off the factories?
Right.
Yeah, so it is. I wouldn't do this. There's times to do this, but if you defoliate right, well, you can defoliate in veg to shape the plants. But if you don't really want to top plants in flower,
Only top and veg.
only top in veg. Give them about a week before you go to flower. Remember, we were talking about those auctions, those tops, those factories. Give them a chance to grow up.
But defoliation you can do in flower as well as veg.
Yeah, and there is. You ever hear that 3 Alight book? Those guys are pretty famous. They call it swazing or schwazzing, and they do it on day 1 and day 21. So the beginning of week 1 and the beginning of week 3.
Right as you flip into flower.
Yeah, and they're removing a whole bunch of the foliage, and their concept. I just did this last night, by the way. I was spending about 4 hours in my grow, and I'm like, I'm going for it. Their concept is the plant has a lot of stored energy, so by cutting off the leaves, you're giving it a stress response, and you're pushing it to push more energy towards those flowering sites. It will refoliate. They'll refoliate in about 5 or 7 days.
Yeah, those leaves will start coming back.
Yep. And the idea is it's a stress response, and then it's pushing a bunch of energy to those sites.
Okay, the other thing that I think of when I think about defoliating, I'm thinking about like airflow,
Sure.
microclimates. So for the health of the plant, it makes sense.
It's huge.
The other thing that you showed me, and I'm just gonna move us on to the next thing.
And I got to see, you said microclimate. Think about a leaf laying on another leaf.
Oh yeah, exactly.
You know, they're both, transpiring. They're both, putting out water. You want to talk about prime time for some kind of mold or mildew. Yeah.
Okay. Specifically, the leaves towards the bottom of the plant. This is lollipopping?
Yeah, let's talk about that'd be the third thing, which would be, you can call it lollipopping, you can call it cleaning up the bottoms. Lollipopping is when you cut everything off the stem and just leave like a bud up at the top, just foliage up or plant material up at the top. And what you're really doing, the point I'd like to make is that the plant only has a certain amount of energy in the roots. So you need to direct that energy. So as it's going up, all they call it larf, all that little stuff that's on the bottom. If that's not there by magic, that is taking resources as they're going up the branch. My dad was a plumber, so I think of these branches in terms of like plumbing pipe. A 1-inch plumbing pipe does about 35 gallons a minute. 2-inch pipe does about 140 gallons a minute.
Much more than 70.
Yeah, it's not linear. So my point is, by cutting off all those little spaghetti, those little tiny buds, they're all robbing resources from you. Keep those nice big pipelines, and grow, 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 nice colas.
So when I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking as topping is intentionally creating a detour to spread them out to different branches. This is the opposite. This is getting rid of any possible detours to push it to where you want it to go.
This is focusing the energy. Absolutely.
Okay, and then just for plant health reasons again, isn't there problems with allowing those leaves and branches at the lower third of the plant anyways?
Sure. I mean, there's different microbes, and don't forget, what are the microbes doing in the soil? They're decomposers, right? When that leaf falls onto the soil, it decomposes it and pulls, nutrients out of it. Well, you don't want it doing that while it's on the stem. Think about how microbes can spread, and you don't want the leaf touching the soil because it's getting the wrong microbes. Then it's getting those decomposers. So just clean it up, and man, over definitely the first. I guess depends how big your plants are, but the first 6 inches of my plants, even if they're short and squat, I'm removing everything. Hey, that is just what I do with my plants. But what about you? Have you got any pruning tips that I missed? Let me know in the comments. Come on, if you like this video, please hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, share this one with another grower and check out the other couple of videos YouTube's recommending. I think you'll dig them.